In the misty realm of Celtic mythology, where reality and legend intertwine like morning fog through ancient stones, there exists a figure whose very name once caused warriors to tremble and kings to question their resolve. The Morrigan, the phantom queen of the Celts, stands as perhaps the most enigmatic and powerful deity in the Irish pantheon. Neither wholly good nor entirely malevolent, she embodies the raw, untamed forces that shape both destiny and warfare. Picture a battlefield at twilight, where the air hangs thick with anticipation. Above, storm clouds gather like an army preparing for war, their dark masses promising both cleansing rain and destructive lightning. Through this ominous scene cuts the cry of a raven, its voice carrying across the field like a blade through silk. This is how the Morrigan often makes her presence known, not with grandstanding or dramatic proclamations, but with subtle omens that speak to humanity's deepest instincts. The Morrigan isn't merely another deity in the Celtic pantheon. She represents something far more fundamental to the human experience. She embodies the understanding that fate, war, and sovereignty are inextricably linked, each feeding into and drawing power from the others. In her essence, she is the personification of the harsh truths that societies often prefer to ignore, that power comes with a price, that fate cannot be cheated, and that death is not just an end, but a vital part of the natural cycle. The roots of the Morrigan's worship stretch deep into Ireland's pre-Christian past, when the Tuatha De Danann, the tribe of the goddess Danu, were said to rule the Emerald Isle. Her name itself is a subject of scholarly debate, with interpretations ranging from Phantom Queen to Great Queen or even Terror Queen. Each translation offers a different facet of her complex nature. The Morrigan's position among the Tuatha De Danann was unique. While other deities might have clearly defined roles, Brigid as the goddess of poetry and crafts, or Dagda as the good god of fertility and knowledge, the Morrigan transcended simple categorization. She moved between roles as easily as she shifted shapes, her influence touching every aspect of Celtic life and death. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Morrigan is her manifestation as a triple goddess, appearing as three sisters who are simultaneously separate entities and aspects of a single divine being. This trinity consists of Badbi, the crow. Bab, whose name means crow or raven, specializes in prophecy and the psychological aspects of warfare. She is the harbinger of doom, the voice that whispers of impending death, and the shadow that falls across a warrior's heart in the moment before battle. Her prophecies come not as straightforward predictions, but as riddles and poems, forcing those who hear them to wrestle with their meaning until the very moment of fulfillment. Macha, the sovereign. Macha represents sovereignty, territory, and the sacred bond between a ruler and their land. Her most famous tale, The Curse of Ulster, demonstrates the terrible consequences of disrespecting this connection. Forced to race against horses while heavily pregnant, Macha won but cursed the men of Ulster to suffer the pains of childbirth in their hour of greatest need. This story illustrates both her power and her demand for respect for the natural order. Nemain, the frenzy. Nemain embodies the chaos and fury of war itself. Her name means panic or frenzy, and her presence on the battlefield drives warriors to madness. Her war cry alone was said to be capable of killing 100 warriors through sheer terror. She represents the unpredictable, uncontrollable aspects of conflict that no amount of planning or strategy can fully account for. The Morrigan's abilities extend far beyond typical divine powers. Her capabilities include shape-shifting. Perhaps her most renowned ability is shape-shifting, allowing her to take various forms to suit her purposes. Each transformation carries deep symbolic meaning. As a raven or crow, she surveys battlefields, her presence both an omen and a promise. As a wolf, she embodies the predatory aspects of war and survival. As a beautiful young woman, she tests and tempts warriors. As an old crone, she delivers prophecies and warnings. As an eel, she demonstrates her connection to water and transformation, prophecy and fate. The Morrigan's prophetic powers are unmatched in Celtic mythology. Unlike other seers who might glimpse possible futures, she sees what must be. Her prophecies are absolute, though often delivered in cryptic forms that become clear only in hindsight. This ability connects directly to her role as a weaver of fate. She doesn't just predict the future, she helps shape it. Sovereignty. Her connection to sovereignty goes beyond mere political power. The Morrigan represents the sacred bond between ruler and realm, land and people. She tests potential kings, offering them either her blessing or her curse based on their worthiness to rule. This aspect of her nature suggests that true leadership must be earned through more than just strength of arms. The Second Battle of Mag Tuired. One of the most significant appearances of the Morrigan occurs during the Second Battle of Mag Tuired, where the Tuatha De Danann fought against the Fomorians. Before the battle, she encountered the Dagda by a river during Samhain. Their union symbolized the marriage of war and fertility, destruction and creation. During the battle itself, she fought alongside the Tuatha De Danann, using her powers to ensure their victory. The Tain Bowenyi in the famous cattle raid of Cooley, the Morrigan's interaction with the hero Cuchulainn showcases her complex nature. After he rejects her advances, she attempts to stop him during battle, appearing as various animals. Though he defeats each form, she later appears to him as an old woman offering milk. When he blesses her without recognizing her, the curse between them is lifted, demonstrating the cyclical nature of her influence. The death of Cuchulainn. Perhaps one of the most poignant appearances of the Morrigan occurs at the death of Cuchulainn. Despite their earlier conflicts, she tries to prevent his death by warning him of approaching enemies. When he ignores her warnings and meets his fate, she perches on his shoulder in raven form, signifying that even the greatest heroes cannot escape their destiny. Sacred sites and worship. The worship of the Morrigan was closely tied to specific locations across Ireland. Raven's Cave. Located in the Owainagat Cave in County Roscommon, this site was believed to be one of the Morrigan's primary dwelling places. During Samhain, she was said to emerge from this cave, bringing winter's darkness with her. River Unius. The river where she met with the Dagda became a sacred site, representing the joining of opposing forces and the cyclical nature of life and death. Ancient battlefields. Many ancient Irish battlefields were considered sacred to the Morrigan, places where her presence could still be felt in the cry of ravens and the whisper of wind through standing stones. The Morrigan's influence extends far beyond ancient Celtic mythology. In modern times, she has become a symbol of feminine power, sovereignty, and the complexity of human nature. Her triple aspect reminds us that individuals contain multitudes. We are all capable of being creators and destroyers, nurturers and warriors. Her association with ravens and crows has contributed to these birds' continued mystical significance in many cultures. Even today, the sight of a raven can evoke a sense of otherworldly presence, a reminder of the Morrigan's enduring influence on our collective imagination. The Morrigan's mythology raises profound questions about the nature of fate, free will, and power, the price of power. Through her interactions with mortals and gods alike, the Morrigan demonstrates that power always comes with a price. Those who seek her favor must be prepared to pay it. The nature of fate. Her role as a prophet raises questions about predestination versus free will. If the Morrigan prophesies an event, is it truly inevitable, or does the prophecy itself shape the future? The cycle of life and death. As a goddess associated with both warfare and sovereignty, she embodies the understanding that destruction and creation are part of the same cycle, each necessary for the other to exist. The Morrigan remains one of mythology's most complex and intriguing figures. She defies simple categorization, remaining as mysterious today as she was to the ancient Celts. Perhaps this is fitting for a deity who represents the uncertain aspects of existence, fate, death, and the chaos of war. In the end, the Morrigan reminds us that life's greatest truths often come wrapped in shadow and mystery. She teaches us that power and vulnerability, creation and destruction, life and death are not opposites but complementary forces in the eternal dance of existence. As we face our own battles, both literal and metaphorical, the Morrigan's presence in mythology continues to resonate. She reminds us that every victory carries the seeds of future conflict, every defeat the possibility of renewal, and that wisdom often comes from embracing, rather than denying, life's darker aspects. The Morrigan's legacy endures not because she represents simple truths or easy answers, but precisely because she embodies the complexity and contradiction inherent in human existence. She is the shadow that gives depth to light, the destruction that makes room for creation, the death that gives meaning to life. In today's world, where we often seek to sanitize or simplify our understanding of life's great mysteries, the Morrigan stands as a reminder that some truths resist simplification. She challenges us to look deeper, to embrace complexity, and to recognize that power, like fate itself, is neither good nor evil, but simply is. Whether appearing as a crow above modern battlefields, or whispering in the dreams of those who seek to understand their destiny, the Morrigan remains an active force in our collective imagination. She reminds us that while the forms of warfare and sovereignty may change, the fundamental truths she represents remain constant. As we continue to tell her stories and ponder her mysteries, we participate in a tradition that stretches back through millennia. In doing so, we acknowledge that some forces, like fate, war, and the cycles of nature, remain as relevant and powerful today as they were when the first Celtic bards sang of the phantom queen who watches from the shadows, weaving the threads of destiny with ravens' feathers and warriors' tears.